Welcome back to Witness Stories. Well, the purpose of this video is to give you an example of how a past life can turn up in part of your personality in this life, but also in this case sort of the context for why I would want to look into a past life. I just think it might be just kind of interesting to how this worked into my particular story. So for the purposes of solving a problem, solving a thing I wanted to accomplish, I have used the services of what I consider to be a very good medium. I don't usually solve my problems by going through a medium, but in this case, I was trying to find my one true love that my intuition all my life had said existed. And I would never take seriously if someone else stated such a thing to me, but I could not shake this feeling out of my own life. It just added up. Why could I not find her? But I knew she was there, just in my bones. I just knew it. I also had the determination to sort out her from all the others in some reliable way, because I had made mistakes thinking I had found her before, and it wasn't true. As part of that internal discussion, it came up, my internal discussion, but then I had the medium I was working with. It came up about past lives that you could touch objects which you have feelings about. And the story would be interesting. So this seemed to be a diversion from my quest, but as it turns out, it really wasn't. In this case, I came up with the fact I had strong reactions, emotional reactions to amber, the mineral or material amber. If you don't know what amber is, it's basically old resin that has come out of the sap that has hardened, come out of trees, and comes up as a natural, very hard plastic. We do consider it a mineral, but it is the real coagulated sap from trees. My mother, for example, had some amber jewelry, and some I liked of it, and some I hugely disliked. I did not particularly have an obvious reason as to why. So in order to investigate this past life, I was told to hold some amber in my hand, relax into a meditative state, and see what thoughts came to mind. We call this thought forming back in the day. You can also call this a past life regression, because that was the intent in this particular meditation event. I was also told this would be very informative and useful to me. So keeping in the back of the mind, this has something to do with my true love. Even if it's ever so indirect. So I did that, and a long story cropped up in my mind that hooked into some things I feel in the nooks and crannies of my life. For one, I hate the smoky amber. I mean the ones that's kind of like and I kind of like the clear amber, like it was worth money to me or just desirable. Another thing, I've always felt very good about the wind. I like it. I hate how it blows papers around or anything. I want to be held down and be predictable, but the wind interferes with that. But generally, I love everything else about the wind. And I have interesting feelings and skills, especially around wood, sanding and shaping, and working with wood and things that have a sort of a smooth surface form to them. And I have some other social attitudes about belonging and doing things in life, what what you choose to do. It doesn't sound like it assembles in anything particularly novel, but we shall see. Many other things that resonate in this story came to me. I wrote all that I felt and expanded from my awareness as I contemplated what came to me. Impressions come to me, so I wrote those all down. In the meantime, I decided to place an advertisement in the personals section of a paper. But before that, at some point, just before I put out my personal ad, at some point I was just walking. I noticed a little park. I decided it attracted my attention, so I went into the park and I just walked in there for a moment or two, and it seemed almost automatic that a little local weekly paper was on a bench and just seemed to kind of just go into my hands, and in it had a listing in it. I walked and and it felt like it practically asked to be taken up. Like I say, I had it in my hand. It had my name on it. It was the feeling that after I picked it up. So I opened the paper and I checked the personals, and I found an interesting entry. It was from a woman who noted an interest in shamanic subjects, and that made me very interested, since this was within the realm of New Age topics and spiritualism that I was into. So it made me curious. But I wanted to cut to the chase and either scare her off or attract her in. But how? I mean, what would be less risk of me being a romantic fool than an actual date? I decided to shoot both barrels of what I had. I sent to her this story, this past life regression, and I call it my Amber story. So what I'll tell you next is a story that came to me after I had assembled the into timeline order all of the elements that had come to me. Well, it still is a little mixed together, I assume, but from going forward and backward within the story, but it was seen from the perspective inside of that life and mindset. So here's the story that I sent this woman, to get her attention. So here's the story. Amber, back then. This was written in September 1st, 1993. Forward. In this life, I never liked amber very much as a mineral until now that I remember. But back then, when I knew it was tree blood, when your work was who you were. So back then, it was not a safe world. You needed people. Your work gave you a way to belong. And back then, by the way, I got the impression that was either 3,000 years ago or 30,000 years ago. I'm not sure which. But in this not so safe world, until you could do some kind of work, you weren't highly valued. I didn't feel valued or safe within the given environment. I had no skills, no place, no value. So where I had ended up, boat building skills were among the highest of value. Gathering tree blood was one of the lowest and the most dangerous. You would go out and gather the syrup from trees out in the forest. It was one of the lowest skilled duties that you could perform. Nobody wanted to do it, and nobody who was respected had to. The young, the apprentices were given the task, one you had to do until they needed help with some other task. If you were lucky, you got to learn the secret of a new skill sometime along your travels. Trades knowledge was guarded, so this was difficult to do at times. If you didn't do a skill set well right off, back to lowly work you went. Natural ability was believed in and promoted. The value of repeated practice was the common secret. One day, someone died, or you got identified as a good task, and then you got a new profession. After that, you became a new person in the eyes of all others. After a while, you were allowed to feel some respect. The resulting self-respect was the key to happiness, and that was a guarded secret too. A secret in plain sight, if you will. But until then, you dealt with the tree blood. I started there. So to backtrack a little bit, in that age, when I was a child of the mountain people. They were untamed and independent, and they valued excess, unskilled children even less than other people did. They mostly traded and traveled, but also made tools and other things. They did this with the resources of the wild mountains combined with secret magic, and which you can call secret recipes, and what they obtained, and they would trade what they obtained through that trade. I either had no parents myself, because maybe they had died or some other way, or too many siblings, one or the other. Either proposition meant that you were expendable and a commodity that could be traded. And I was traded to the brewer people at a young age. The mountain people are up in the mountains, and the brewer people are down near the coastlines, where forests were thick and tall. Maybe when I was 7 or 8 was when I was traded from the mountain people. The brewer people used forest resources and their secrets to make raw materials for trade. The tree blood was singularly directed to boat building, a major customer to the brewers. Me as one of the brewers, we brewed tree blood. It was nasty work. The tree blood was sticky, smelly, and unwashable. When it was on you, everyone knew your station in life. As somebody who hunted the stuff, I would have a particular smell. There were many trades involved in boat building and their use. Wood getters, wood carvers, sealants, and glues from the forest breweries, tools and charms from the mountain people and other places. Ironically, this least valued work of gathering was one of the more important in boat building. Their style of small boat building could not be done properly without it. The rosin collecting work had some nice benefits too. You got to travel at will through the forest. There you'd trade with many peoples, see many things, and all dangers, and had all the kinds of dangers more than some other careers. You were also taken for granted and dismissed easily. If you were out hunting tree sap, taking samples from some of your spots that you did, and you disappeared, nobody would be very surprised, because it happened all the time. So the smell on you, for one thing, it didn't smell bad like the fishing people. It obscured the senses of the animals. You were less likely to get attacked, and you could observe and hunt them more easily. The resin was not expensive in its undelivered raw form, so it wasn't stolen much from you, and so you weren't a target of thievery. And being identified by your smell, no one expected you had anything of value on you. To work the resin, you started with the right kind of tree. The tree was damaged in some way that it generated resin to heal itself. After a time, I invoked the practice of asking the permission of the forest god to do this damage. Other gatherers didn't do this as their beliefs weren't like mine. Mine originated from the mountain people, so I was a little different than the locally born brewers. I was fascinated with what the perspectives of the mountain people were, and I had memories of mountain winds and other things. So within a few days of work, you could collect the sap in a bark-lined bucket. And at the brewing camp, glues and caulks were made from this material. One could do well as a brewmaster if you could lead people and you had groups of gatherers. You had groups of gatherers, workers, and delivery traders. When you'd paid your dues as a gatherer, you could then go on to delivery trading or learn all the facets of manufacturing the substances. After this, you'd become important to the business, and only after that, because now you had some skills they didn't want to lose. The business operated loosely as an almost tribe, a place of healing for misfits from everywhere, like me. This was a good start for a vagabond like me. No one could keep close track on you, and no one would be terribly crushed if you never came back. Acceptance was face-to-face with whoever was there that you encountered. You could always return if you squared things with the brewmaster. I was cared for by him and his wife, and his wives after I was traded in. So returning was easy. Returning to the camp each time was easy. Independence was expected from me, and I took full advantage. But I was also expected to be fearless of the forest and fearless of the mountains and the outback areas, which wasn't always so true. And I also felt a missing sense of belonging and self-worth in this environment. Eventually, I chose the delivery trading duties because you could deal with the boat makers. I was fascinated by the building of boats. These craft worked magic in the winds and waters, and I had plenty of esoteric belief in the power of the wind. And these boats, if they had a small sail or something, seemed to work with the magic of the wind. I had learned of these powerful sources from the wind people, but in the boats I could see a tangible effect of these wonders. I wasn't into the adventures of sailing or fishing. The mortality of it distracted me, but I loved the shape and feel of the boats. I felt at home just being near them. I had some memories of the relationship of magic and tools from my mountain tribe. These mountain people respected the embodiment of magic and tools. I wanted to see the application of it in these tools on the sea. Tools were magical, and all man-made things were to us in those days, and so must the boats also be magical. After all, there was much more attention and effort in them than a tool, and tools were used on them as well. In the mountains, I'd felt the wind and its voices in my ears. Water at the ocean had voices too, and on the water I could see the action the magic could take, both in the waves and the sail of the boat. I was excited by these feelings. At that time, I did not realize that the experience that mattered was already within me, so I wanted to own this power, and I thought I had to do it via a boat. After I'd become a delivery person, I made contacts with the boat builders. I'd watch them work, which not everybody got to do. At least the one who'd let me was a good resource for me. And I learned a few things from this. Sometimes I could secretly take journeys from the brewing camp and work for the boat builders in exchange for free labor, stories of the mountain people, and free samples of the resin products. I would trade with them that. Eventually, the brewmaster got old and later died, and by then any possibility for me to replace him had gone by due to my lack of attention to the brewing commerce. I became known as somewhat of a troublemaker and a curiosity, but I was respected for the experiences that I did have. When an opportunity opened for me to apprentice at boat building, I took it. These boats depended on good caulking and gluing, so bits of knowledge I'd brought helped. I knew what was good resin materials and their true prices. I also knew how to use them very well. I soon learned how to shape and join the wood and how to use sand to rub the resin off with my hands. That way you could, in effect, become a new person. They could tell what you were by the new smell. I also learned to appreciate the pure doing of something, the satisfaction of completion, and the excitement when your creation works. Through this, I discovered how to value myself. But with this, I discovered the knowledge that I could have valued myself at any time, if I could have allowed it. With a new sense of self, I could now allow myself to belong to others. I wasn't quite so much of an independent rogue anymore. New challenges were to come from this new ability to interact with the public around me. Because of my knowledge and the romanticism of the mountains, woods, and boats, I won the attention from women back in the brewing camps. The resulting rumors helped to win attention from the daughters of the boat builders as well. Eventually, these romances took their toll on me emotionally. Then also, the results of the competitions fell on me. Somehow, I survived all the aftermath of each one of these adventures, and sometimes they could be dramatic. With a much more mature view, I learned to hold a balance of respect and romance for one woman, a fisherwoman. She was not considered a top choice by the aggressive men, fishing being the lower of the trades at sea. Her trader skill status meant little to me personally. I'd been in many trades by then, and I was an adopted person too. This gave me a different view of things. I was attracted by something more than human and admittedly physical in her. She did not judge a person by their position or status. She had a deep warmth about her. I admired her for all that. My respect as an unspoken secret for this was a paternal society, and boastfulness invited competition and struggle as well. So, her culture was different than the people I had the most problems with, is what I mean by that. We soon settled into cohabitation. Unlike the brewers or the mountain people, with fishing people, marriage was assumed by this action. After this, opportunities to go to the open sea came to me. At first, this was fearsome to me, but I did learn to see the power and art in the two separate forces of air and sea. But with respect to my survival, I kept a limited, non-trusting relationship with the natural forces. Because of fear, many lessons of air, water, and weather were hard learned. More often, I was just fighting myself. There was a mirror in this process in my relationship to the woman. There seemed to be a struggle between her and the sea over who could own my heart. She was from the fishing tribe and had lost to the sea before. She didn't want to lose there again. She liked me and my boats. Both worked well to make a living. Both were geometric art, mystery, and I guess desire to her. I don't know if she admired my point of view specifically, however. She had her own to promote. I think, or perhaps I kept my admiration too much of a secret after all. Also, I found I was the battleground between her and the sea. Therefore, the actual skirmishes there would be between her and me, and then between me and the sea. So I sometimes did play one against the other. One was often an escape from the other. Strangely, to my point of view, she'd be in respectful harmony and rapport when she'd meet the goddess of the sea herself. And if they shared secret agreement, and just as if they'd shared a secret agreement. I felt I was like my boats, and she was like the sea. I'd find my way best that I could, sailing with the given wind. When I recognized their moods, I could use my hard-won skills to navigate anywhere, well, almost safely. One key was to respect and love and admire them openly. To do this, you needed to possess a valued self. Then you could sail in their wind anywhere they were willing to go. There's the key, of course, where they're willing to go. Safety came in the form of true relationships, true understanding, and true love. The bliss in living life began for me at that point. Ever after. So after the letter, I took that letter, and after I had sent it, after that point in time, we exchanged phone numbers. Here in this current life, we lived about 100 minutes apart by the freeway, and we both had kids. Being at the end of both of our divorces, there was not much money between us or time to bridge the distance, and we wanted to be sure of our compatibility. Was she her? That's what I wanted to know. So we spent many hours on some number of days, a number of weeks, just talking on the phone. But one fine day, we agreed to meet and bring our one daughter each. It was just like we knew each other forever, which is hard to put into words. Although my daughter may have done that better than we could have expected, having a good feeling about the situation. And in fact, we didn't take that too seriously at that point, how she was very positive about the relationship. But maybe we should have. Near the end of this first meeting, as we were finishing our first time together, and with there being more than just two of us, out of the blue, my daughter said, "Okay, you two can get married." I guess we had permission to deepen the relationship. We are now married for over 30 years. So I used a past life story about a past marriage, past relationship, to help me to close on my true love relationship in this lifetime. I do consider that kind of an interesting set of circumstances. And it's interesting that in this lifetime I have a very deep feeling for wind, for weather, and for sculpting wood. So anyway, there you are.